Hi, my name is Charles Borges de Oliveira, and this is the video manual for old stock. We'll be covering the material that is supplied in the manual. We will show how to open the actions panel, load the actions, as well as running the actions. We'll be showing two of the 130 different actions that are included in old stock. So let's begin. I've got Adobe Illustrator pulled up here, and the first thing we want to do is load the oldstock.ai file. So I'm going to go up to here to File, and I'm going to click Open. And I've already located the old stock folder. You'll notice there's a folder with actions, graphic styles, swatches, and the file we're looking for is old stock. So let's go ahead and select that, and we'll click Open. Okay, so now you'll notice we have a blank artboard here. The nice thing about the oldstock.ai file is it has all the swatches already preloaded for you, as well as the graphic styles. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to open up the Actions panel. So I'm going to go up to the top here to Window, and I'm going to click on Actions, and you'll notice it pulls up the Actions panel. By default, Illustrator has the default actions already loaded into it. Let's go ahead and minimize that. The next thing we need to do is go to the drop-down menu here, and we're going to click Load Actions. Okay, and once again, we're going to locate the old stock folder, and we're going to click on the Actions folder. You'll notice that there's 7 different folders here. Each folder contains all the actions for the desired effect. For this demonstration, we'll be using old stock drop shadow minus outline. So let's go ahead and double click that. And for the demonstration, we'll be using old stock drop shadow minus outline small. So let's go ahead and select that, and we'll go ahead and click Open. And now you'll notice that the actions are being loaded in the Actions panel. Okay, now that we've got those, we're going to load up another set of actions here. So again, I'm going to go to the drop-down menu, and I'm going to click Load Actions. And this time we'll be using Old Stock Inset Fill. So let's go ahead and double click it, and you'll notice the action here, Old Stock Inset Fill. Let's go ahead and select that, and we'll go ahead and click Open. Okay, now the actions are being loaded into Illustrator. Just a side note, the nice thing about Illustrator is it'll retain all the actions. So if you close Illustrator and reopen it, all the actions will be retained in the Actions panel. Okay, so Illustrator's loading all the actions here. Okay, so now that's done, let's go ahead and run our first action. But before I do, if you're new to Actions, I'd like to explain how the Actions panel works. So you'll notice that we have our actions loaded in the Actions panel here. And if we want to run an action, we have to select it. So in this case, we'll be using diagonal tight. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And if you look down here, you'll notice these buttons. The only button we have to be concerned with this demo is the play button. This is the button that's going to actually run the action. Okay, so now let's go ahead and go over to the Type tool, and we're going to go ahead and click on the artboard, and we'll be using Mirrored Pro, and we're going to be using the black font here. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and set to 1 inch. If you're using points, it would be 72 point. So let's go ahead and type out some text. We'll be typing old stock in all caps. Okay, now this is very important. We can't run the action while we're still in the Type tool. We have to go ahead and select the Selection tool. So let's go ahead and go up here to the Selection tool, go ahead and click it, and we're going to make sure that we have old stock selected with the Selection tool. I'll go ahead and zoom in on this so we can see what's going on. Okay, the action we'll be running, if you're following along in the manual as well, is diagonal tight. So I've got that selected. Our text is selected with the Selection tool. Now we're ready to go ahead and press play in the Actions panel. So let's go ahead and press play. And you'll notice that old stock is busy going to work here to produce the desired effect we're looking for. Okay, now it's finished. The nice thing about old stock is everything is grouped and separated for you. So the text is its own object as well as the drop shadow. And this is nice because you can just go ahead and select the drop shadow here, and we can go ahead and apply a color to it. In this case, I'm going to choose a nice light gray. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is what happens if you want to run multiple actions. Well, if we're going to run multiple actions, we have to select whichever object we want to run an action on and cut it and paste it into its own layer. Now the reason being is if we try to run an action right now on this text, like this line fade inset top, it's going to apply this action not only to the text but to the drop shadow here. So that's not what we want. So what we need to do is we're going to go up to Edit, and I'm going to hit Cut. And now we're going to paste this text into its own layer. So I'll go ahead and click the Layers panel here. And there's a little icon here, Create New Layer. Let's go ahead and click that. Okay, now before we begin, let's go ahead and lock the drop shadow layer. So I'm going to go ahead and lock the Layer 1. And I'm going to click on Layer 2 to make sure I'm selected on that layer. Now we're going to go up to Edit, and we're going to say Paste in Front. Okay, so now our text is pasted exactly where it was on Layer 1, but now it's on its own separate layer, which is Layer 2. Now we can go ahead and run our next action. So for the next demonstration, we'll be using Old Stock Inset Fill, and we're going to be using Line Fade Inset Top. So I've already got that selected here. The next thing to do is, again, make sure your text is selected with the selection tool and Line Fade Inset Top is highlighted. We're going to go ahead and press play. You'll notice this dialog box pops up here. It's saying the object Create Outlines is not currently available. The reason is when we ran our first action, the text was converted to outlines. So this is just saying it can't recreate converting it to outlines. Just go ahead and hit continue. Okay, now that's done. Let's go ahead and apply some colors to this. So I'm going to go ahead and select the text, and I'm going to go up to the swatches panel, and I'm going to choose this nice dark navy blue. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we can go ahead and select the line fade. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and I'll choose this nice light blue here. And if we go back to our layers, we can unlock layer 1. Well, that concludes this video on using 2 of the 130 different actions in Old Stock. Thanks for watching.